Hello and welcome to the Motivated by Love podcast, a podcast designed to help Christian young adults navigate relationship anxiety and relationship OCD. I'm your host, Kristen, a certified relationship anxiety coach, and I am so excited to talk to you today about what to do when you feel big emotion and you're spiraling and you don't know what to do. Because we have all been there. I've been there many, many times, and sometimes it seems like when you're spiraling, when you're in big emotion, all the tools you've learned go out the window, and it's really hard to know what to do and not to just give in and wallow in the emotions. Now, this can happen with any big emotion. So I just want you to picture the last time you had a spiral of emotions. I know for me, I had shame spirals a lot when I was in the middle of anxiety. This also works for anxiety spirals, really any big emotion where you just feel stuck in it and like it has overtaken you. So like I said before, when we're in the middle of those big emotions, it can be really hard to use any tools. And that's because the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is the part that's responsible for rational thinking and decision making, that part of your brain is turned off when we're in really big emotions. So it makes it really hard to think rationally or to come up with tools to use. And so today I just want to offer you one thing, one tool, one framework that is really easy to use when you're in the middle of a spiral. And it is called the 3 S's. This is something that my coach, McKell Kristen, came up with. It is just a framework for processing emotion, for helping your brain, supporting yourself when you're in the middle of those spirals. And I feel like it is so helpful. It's helped me a ton. And I think that it's one of the greatest things that we can do when we're stuck in emotion. So the 3 S's are basically just 3 things that you can name or that you can do when you're in the middle of a spiral. And they stand for situation, story, and sensation. And I'll go through all 3 of them. The first thing you want to do is name the situation. When you're in the middle of an anxiety attack or a shame spiral, you just want to really practice naming the situation, which is the cold, hard facts. So just like in the episode on facts versus stories, this is where we're going to come up with the facts. What actually is going on? And this is something that can be proven in a court of law. So, for example, a situation could be it's 68 degrees outside, or my boyfriend said, I feel tired. Or maybe even my boyfriend said the words, I don't know how to help you. These are all just what the situation is. So let's just focus on the last one. My boyfriend said the words, I don't know how to help you right now. That is the situation. Now, the story is whatever our brain is coming up with to create a story about the situation. So the story could be, this means my boyfriend doesn't love me, or this means I'm a problem. This means I'm a burden. It's whatever meaning we're giving to the situation. And then last is the sensation in your body. This is where you just name whatever you notice is going on. So if you are feeling shame, the sensation might be, I feel it tightening in my chest. It feels cold. It feels like a fist is in there squeezing together. Or it feels like a pit in my stomach. It's a heavy pit and it's gray and just so heavy. Those are examples of sensation. it really is just like if you were describing to an alien or someone who's never felt emotion, you're just describing what it is like to be a human experiencing shame or anxiety or whatever emotion it is. Sometimes I like to think of like if I was narrating my life or if I was writing a book, because book characters tend to seem really good at describing the sensations in their body, right? Like my stomach dropped or my throat closed up. Those are just ways that we describe the sensation in our bodies. So the 3 S's are overall, number 1, the situation, number 2, the story, and number 3, the sensation in your body. Now, with these 3 S's, I want you to imagine them not linearly, like the situation created the story and the story created that sensation, but to put them all in a circle with arrows going back and forth from each one. So let's say we have situation at the top, story in the bottom right, and sensation in the bottom left. And we're just going to put arrows between all of those in a circle, going to clockwise and counterclockwise. This is really important because it's not linear. Sometimes you might have a sensation in your body that leads you to create a story, right? So I know when I was in the midst of relationship OCD, I had really bad stomach aches, and they actually weren't connected to my anxiety. They had a lot to do with just some health issues that I was having, but I didn't know that in the moment. So I had a sensation in my stomach of it hurting really bad. But then the story I created out of it was that there must be something wrong in my relationship because I had a stomach ache. I used the sensation in my body and then created a story out of it. I thought, well, stomach aches are usually a sign of anxiety, so there must be something subconscious going on that I'm uneasy or feel unsafe in this relationship, and so this must mean that I'm in the wrong relationship because I feel a stomach ache. It must mean that something's wrong and that this is the wrong relationship. So do you see here how it wasn't the situation that created a story and then a sensation in my body, but it was the sensation in my body that I then created a story out of. And this is really important, like I said, just to recognize that these things aren't linear, that human bodies are so complex and human brains, and so there are so many different ways to use these 3 S's and apply them to your situation. Now, I want to close today just by giving an example from my life currently, the past week, where using these 3 S's would have been so helpful for me. Now, I was feeling a lot of, well, let me give you some background. I have a lot of chronic pain in my life, and I was feeling really sad and mournful and hopeless about this pain. And I was in the middle of a breakdown, in the middle of a spiral, and complete honesty, I totally forgot to do the 3 S's, but if I could go back, I would. And this is what it would look like for me. It would look like, what is the situation? The situation is I saw people playing volleyball. I saw them doing something that I love to do that I can't do anymore right now in my life because my body hurts. So that's the situation. The situation is I saw some people playing volleyball. The story I told myself was, I'm never going to get better. I can't do anything. My life is over. This means that I am going to hurt forever. and I am not going to fulfill so many of my dreams in life. It's a pretty sad story, but that's the one that my brain came up with based on the situation of seeing some people play volleyball. And then the sensation I had in my body was a tightening in my chest. It felt like there was a hole in my chest and like there was just water being poured into that hole. It felt like if I was going to give it a color, which I did do this part, the color was black and blue, and it was just wet. I was crying, but the sensation in my body was like a hole in my chest. And in this moment, it was so powerful for me to visualize that hole because it helped me move the emotion through my body. That's the power of recognizing the sensation in our bodies. Doing the situation and the story is also so powerful because it helps us take a step back and recognize what is true and what's not, right? It helps us recognize what the facts are and what the stories are that our brains are coming up with. And if I could go back, I would definitely remember to do the situation and story part. But I did do the sensation part of it. And that, even just doing that, was so powerful for me last week because it allowed me to be a human experiencing sadness, to not be defined by the sadness, to not be sadness, but to be a human experiencing it and to allow that emotion to move through my body, through tears, through the visualization. And the crazy thing is that as we move the emotion through our bodies know how to deal with emotion. They know how to process it. They know how to move it through. We just don't usually allow our bodies to do that. And I will definitely do another podcast in the future that's focused on processing emotions and more focused on the sensation part of it. But I just want to help you recognize and understand the power of doing these 3 S's in the middle of a spiral. It helps us calm our brain down. It helps us calm our bodies down, and it helps us move the emotion through our bodies. And it's all in a really easy, simple way where we recognize what the situation is, what the story is, and what the sensations are in our bodies. And doing this, like I said, it is so powerful. And this is my belief, but I believe that if everyone knew how to do this skill, how to just name these 3 things when they're in the middle of a big emotion or the middle of a spiral, that our world would just have so much more emotional regulation and emotionally healthy people. That we wouldn't be at the power of our emotions so much, but it allows us to be the person in charge of our own emotions and our own experience. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.